There are 6 related credits for low-emitting materials. 4.1 through 4.4 applies to new construction, schools, and core and shell. And 4.5, furniture and furnishings, only applies to schools. 4.6, ceiling and wall systems, only applies to schools as well. Indoor environmental quality, credit 4.1, low-emitting material, adhesives and sealants, has 1 point available. The requirement is that all adhesives and sealants used on the interior of the building, defined as inside the weatherproofing system and applied on site, shall comply with the South Coast Quality Management District Rule Number 1168. Remember that acronym, SCAQMD. Aerosol adhesives have to meet the Green Seal standard for commercial adhesives, GS36. Remember, these environmental quality credits have a lot of memorization, and to memorize all standards in orange. And also good to know even the detailed Green Seal numbers, such as GS36 for aerosol adhesives. Questions don't as commonly include that detail level, but they could. Those tables refer to VOC limits that are within the lead reference manual if you're working on a project, but you don't have to memorize those charts. Requirements for schools are that all adhesives and sealants used on the interior of the building comply with the California Department of Health Services standard practice for the testing of volatile organic emissions from various sources using small-scale environmental chambers, including 2004 addenda. You can probably remember this if you just know that schools reference the California Department of Health Services standard. Indoor environmental quality credit 4.2, low-emitting materials, refers to paints and coatings, which cannot exceed the VOC content limits in Green Seal Standard GS11 for paints, flats being a limit of 50 grams per liter, non-flats having a limit of 150 grams per liter of VOC. Anti-corrosive and anti-rust paints, reference Green Seal Standard GC03. The limit is 250 grams per liter. And for clear wood finishes, floor coatings, stains, primers, and shellacs, the South Coast Air Quality Management District Rule Number 1113 applies. Once again, for schools, paints and coatings, you're referring to the California Department of Health Services standard practice for the testing of volatile organic emissions from various sources using small-scale environmental chambers. So schools are referencing the more stringent California Department of Health code. Within that, there are testing and product requirements. Indoor environmental quality credit 4.3, low-emitting materials, refers to flooring systems. For carpets, the standard is the Carpet and Rug Institute's Green Label Plus program. For carpet cushions, it's the Carpet and Rug Institute's Green Label program. So very similar, except notice in the carpet standard, it's Green Label Plus program. And keep in mind, you do have to look at the full carpet assembly. The carpet cushion, and also the carpet adhesive, which must meet the Indoor Environmental Quality Credit 4.1 VOC limit criteria of 50 grams per liter. For hard surfaces, the flooring must be certified with the Floor Score standard by a third party. Concrete, wood, bamboo, and cork floor finishes must meet South Coast Air Quality Management District number 1113 rule for architectural coating. Option 2, for new construction, schools, and core and shell, so all flooring elements installed in the building interior must meet the testing and product requirement of that California Department of Health Services standard practice for the testing of volatile organic emissions from various sources using small-scale environmental chambers. So that more stringent California Department code can apply to flooring systems as well. There are many carpet manufacturers that are now meeting this criteria. Interface, for example, has carpet tiles that are made from low VOC emitting recycled content materials, which has synergy with Material and Resource Credit 4, recycled content, also improve indoor air quality and contribute to the sustainable use of resources. This product is called Tactile. It has a grabbing system that avoids the use of toxic glues and adhesives when applying the carpets. Helps with ease of install as well. Indoor environmental quality credit 4.4. Low emitting material, composite wood, and agrofiber products. It requires that composite wood and agrofiber products, including the laminating adhesives on the interior of the building, cannot contain any added urea-formaldehyde resins. Composite wood and agrofiber products made from agricultural waste, it's the definition of agrofiber products, include, for example, particle board, medium density fiberboard, MDF, plywood, wheat board or straw board, panel substrates, and door cores. For schools, the composite wood and agrofiber products refer to that California Department of Health Services standard. Indoor environmental quality credit 4.5, low emitting material for furniture and furnishings only applies to schools to achieve a point. The schools, classroom furniture that was manufactured or refinished within 1 year prior to occupancy must meet one of the following requirements. Option 1 would be the Green Guard Children in School certified products, or option 2 is use an independent laboratory that uses the EPA's environmental technology verification for large chamber test protocol for measuring emissions of VOCs and aldehydes, and also meets ANSI 7.1 third-party testing protocol. Implementation for this credit requires you use the performance-based standards from Indoor Environmental Quality 4 for this credit, which includes the Green Guard Environmental Institute certified products. Performance-based emissions limits include products meeting this credit's requirements will not increase indoor air pollution by any more than the threshold limits. And this credit also requires the air velocity and outdoor air rate to meet ASHRAE 62.1 2007 standards. It's important to earn this credit not to perform a flush out for Indoor Environmental Quality Credit 3.2 until after the furniture is installed. Indoor Environmental Quality Credit 4.6, low emitting materials, ceiling and wall systems, also only applies to schools to earn 1 point. It requires that all gypsum board, insulation, acoustical ceiling systems, and wall coverings installed in the building interior must meet the testing and product requirements in the California Department of Health Services standard practice for the testing of volatile organic emissions from various sources using small-scale environmental chambers. Once again, you don't have to remember that verbatim. Make sure to remember the California Department of Health Services standard for meeting this credit. Indoor Environmental Quality Credit 5, Indoor Chemical and Pollutant Source Control, applies to new construction, schools, and corn shell that can all earn 1 point for this credit. The requirement is to design to minimize and control pollutant entry into buildings and cross-contamination of regularly occupied spaces. You can see their synergy with Indoor Environmental Quality 3.1, Construction Indoor Air Quality Management Plan. This credit requires a permanent entryway system with a minimum 10-foot long span in the primary direction of travel. This can include grates, grills, or slotted systems that allow for cleaning below, or roll-out mats. But if you use the carpet or mat option, they have to be maintained and cleaned on a weekly basis. So make sure there's a contract in place and facility managers and property managers are on board. Next requirement is in regularly occupied spaces, provide new air filtration media with a minimum efficiency reporting value, which is MERV, of 13 or better. This is important to include in your construction indoor air quality management plan if you're trying to achieve this credit. You need to install this MERV 13 filter in both return and outside air. To look at the standard for MERV ratings, you can refer to ANSI ASHRAE 52.2. Where hazardous gases or chemicals may be present, such as garages, janitor closets, and printing rooms, you can see the reference guide, page 511. But in general, for the test, you just need to know exhaust each space to create negative pressure. Dedicated exhaust systems with a minimum exhaust rate of 0.5 cubic feet per minute per square foot with no air recirculation. Pressure differential with adjacent spaces must be at least 5 pascal on average and 1 at a minimum with closed doors. Provide deck-to-deck partitions, sealed gypsum board enclosures, or hard lid sealing and self-closing doors. This criteria has similarities to the criteria for designated smoking areas for environmental tobacco smoke control in the prerequisite number 2. So it's important to memorize how you seal off spaces based on the leak criteria by the items highlighted in yellow. These are what are important to memorize for the test. The next requirement is to contain hazardous liquid waste for safe disposal, which means they need to be sealed in a temporary storage area for off-site disposal. The storage area is preferred outside the building. This is needed where water and chemical concentrate has been mixed. So this can be for housekeeping, janitorial services, or happens frequently in science laboratories. For the submittal documentation, you need to confirm that the required entryway system with 10 feet in the path of travel has been spec'd and designed. So you need to list each entryway product, provide copies of construction drawings showing the size and location of the entryway system, being either grills, grates, or carpet, and create a maintenance plan for cleaning out the area below the grates or the weekly cleaning of the carpets, and list rooms or areas that require separation and confirm negative pressure calculations have been met, and show deck-to-deck partitions or hard lid conditions where contaminants were present, were designed and installed, and provide the product literature for the MERV 13 or higher filters. Costs and benefits of achieving this credit. Benefit is that it reduces people's exposure to harmful chemicals that may cause health concerns and therefore costs. You're more likely to avoid chemical spills and costly cleanups if those chemicals are stored in a designated area outside of the building. One cost could be additional sinks, drains, room separations, and separate exhaust systems that can have an increased premium on your construction costs. There are a lot of related credits with synergies to meeting this credit criteria as well. As mentioned, the construction indoor air quality management plan, including MERV ratings, optimizing energy performance for any extra ventilation needed can have an effect on your overall energy performance, fundamental commissioning of these systems, and outdoor air delivery, so actually monitoring the CO2 in these areas. Indoor environmental credit 6 is the controllability of systems. So this is getting into more tenant comfort and interaction. Indoor environmental credit 6.1 refers to lighting. 6.2 refers to thermal comfort. This does not apply to core and shell projects. Credit 6, thermal comfort, has different criteria for core and shell projects. Indoor environmental quality credit 6.1, controllability of systems for lighting, has 1 point available for new construction in schools. The requirement is to provide individual lighting controls for 90% at a minimum of the building occupants. You need to provide lighting system controllability for all shared multi-occupant spaces as well, such as conference rooms. This picture shows task lighting in the Seattle Library. For schools, case 1 is for administrative offices and other regularly occupied spaces. You need to provide individual lighting controls for 90% of the building occupants and provide lighting system controllability for learning centers, including classrooms, labs, and gyms. You need to provide 2 lighting modes for classrooms: general illumination and audiovisual for things such as PowerPoint presentations. By having those various controls helps with energy performance by dimming the lights and helps for use and ease of the professors or teachers using the classroom. Implementation. You want to integrate lighting systems controllability into the overall lighting design. There could be automatic occupancy and daylight sensors that you need to calibrate during commissioning, and ensure you're meeting the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America IESNA standard. It's important to memorize IESNA for this credit. Smart control systems, integrated design from companies such as Johnson Controls and Crestron can provide solutions for how you can come up with an integrated lighting design. Controllability of systems with an integrated lighting control system can help with performance by saving on energy by dimming lights when you have enough natural daylight or automatically turning off lights when there are no occupants in that space, and also help with occupant comfort and having appropriate levels for the function of that space. Calculation. 1. Have adjustable task lighting and confirm lighting control for each individual workstation. 2. For the shared multi-occupant spaces, include glare and room darkening controls for daylighting. Make sure all group areas provide lighting controls. So once again, this helps with the function of the space as well. Offices and other regularly occupied spaces, you need to confirm 90% of the occupants can control lighting. And for audio-visual rooms, light-colored ceilings are recommended with 90% or more reflectivity at least 9.5 feet from the floor. And ensure windows have coverings to darken the room. There's no point in turning off all the lights if there's sunlight blaring through a window. ASHRAE 55 is a critical standard to memorize for this section. It's your thermal comfort standard. It's based on the predicted mean vote, PMV, comfort model. It incorporates heat balance principles to relate the personal and environmental thermal comfort factors. And this scale has 7 levels. +3 is hot, -3 is cold, and 0 is your happy median. Naturally ventilated buildings, optional method section 5.3, includes research that shows that occupants' thermal responses in a naturally ventilated space result in a wider thermal comfort, so they can handle warmer or colder temperatures based on the fact they have more fresh air. Indoor environmental quality, credit 6.2, controllability of systems, thermal comfort, requires that you provide thermal comfort controls for 50% of the building occupants. Operable windows can be used in lieu of comfort controls if the occupants are 20 feet inside of and 10 feet to either side of the window. And the window opening must be at least 4% of net occupiable area. This is the similar criteria to natural ventilation for minimum energy performance. So in yellow, make sure to memorize that criteria for naturally ventilated spaces. The operable windows must meet the requirements of ASHRAE 62.1, paragraph 5.1, which is a standard that's consistent for naturally ventilated criteria for the LEED credits. So it could come up in multiple questions on the exam. You also need to provide comfort system controls for all shared multi-occupant spaces. Thermal comfort standard ASHRAE 555 is important to memorize for anything to do with thermal comfort. Occupants must have control of at least one of the following, including air temperature, radiant temperature, airspeed, or humidity. It's important to take into consideration that controllability systems may affect Energy and Atmosphere Credit 1 optimizing energy performance, since you're giving control to the occupants. And also facility managers have to understand how to control these systems. In this diagram in the corner, we're showing an underfloor air distribution system. Those little controls on the floor that look kind of like salad spinners control airspeed. And I've heard examples of touring buildings with facility managers where students, this was a university building, for example, turned off all of the air diffusers in one area, and it caused a lot of pressure to build and blow harder in other areas. So we ended up zip tying all of those air diffusers. So taking away the controllability of the system as it was designed, because there needs to be education to both the tenants and facility managers. And you really have to have that education to ensure that's having a positive effect on your energy performance. Also, the alteration of ventilation and temperature may require measurement and verification attention, and this has synergy with EA Credit 5. Daylight and view strategies are also affected by the controllability requirements of the operable windows. If you're doing natural ventilation, there are integrated control systems that can help with that. Or in some cases, it could be tenant engagement, like maybe a red light, green light type of system. I know in Seattle, for some buildings, commercial buildings downtown that have mixed mode with natural ventilation during certain seasons, when that green light goes on and they can open up those windows, it's like a party in those office buildings. But tenants have to be aware of what that light actually means to engage.